Welcome back, basketball fans, to another massive episode right here on the channel where we dive incredibly deep into the most fascinating storylines and bizarre front office trends currently developing across the National Basketball Association. Today we have an absolutely wild and highly entertaining topic to discuss because the Golden State Warriors have officially and perhaps completely unintentionally become the brand new version of the Philadelphia 76ers when it comes to their front office strategy. And no, we are absolutely not talking about the process or tanking for draft picks. We are talking about a very specific and highly questionable roster-building strategy that the 76ers utilized for years with absolutely zero success. And now it seems the Warriors are attempting to replicate it for reasons entirely unknown to the rest of the basketball world. The Golden State Warriors have completely reloaded their roster quite a bit over the past calendar year, and they have done so primarily by getting heavily involved with former Boston Celtics alumni. After the massive blockbuster Jimmy Butler trade breathed incredible new life into the Golden State franchise last year, they aggressively attempted to strike while the iron was hot by bringing in beloved Celtics veteran Al Horford to solidify their frontcourt. Following all their massive early season struggles and absolutely devastating injuries this current season, they desperately tried again by swinging a trade for another former Celtic, bringing in the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis. And somehow the bizarre Boston connection has not stopped there, because just yesterday they officially brought in big man Charles Bassey, who miraculously managed to suit up and physically play in a game the exact same day they signed his contract, which means that flight to San Francisco must have been incredibly quick. It seems abundantly clear that the Golden State front office has developed a massive affinity for acquiring big men previously associated with the Boston Celtics organization. Now, looking at it objectively, we cannot necessarily blame them entirely for this strategy. Outside of the defensive brilliance of Draymond Green, their overall front-court rotation has been pretty laughable for most of the season, and with the championship window for Stephen Curry rapidly and undeniably closing, their absolute desperation to find productive big men is completely understandable. But what makes this entire situation so incredibly weird and fascinating to analyze is that the Philadelphia 76ers used to do this exact same bizarre strategy back in the day. For years, they would consistently acquire Celtics alumni in the desperate hopes that those specific players could help elevate their roster to a championship level, but the strategy would absolutely never work out the way they planned. Year after year, the Sixers front office would constantly poach ex-Celtics. This strange trend officially started back in 2017 when Philadelphia aggressively brought in 3 separate former Celtics from Boston's roster the previous season. They signed veteran Amir Johnson, young prospect James Young, and guard Demetrius Jackson. The absolute only notable name from that specific group was Amir Johnson, who unfortunately was already visibly washed up and completely past his physical prime by the time he eventually joined the city of brotherly love. But the Sixers front office did not stop there. This bizarre strategy only continued to grow as Johnson and Jackson remained on the Philadelphia team the following season, but the front office also decided to add veteran center Greg Monroe, who had just finished the previous season playing crucial minutes with Boston. Now, absolutely every single diehard Celtics fan remembers full well exactly what happened when the 76ers shockingly convinced Al Horford to join them the following summer on a massive lucrative contract. But just like the other aforementioned names, not only did the grand experiment completely fail to work out between Horford and the Sixers organization, but it was an absolute unmitigated disaster for them on the basketball court. The fit alongside Joel Embiid was completely atrocious, and the situation became so toxic that the Sixers front office literally had to attach a highly valuable first-round draft pick just to completely get his massive contract off their payroll. You would logically think that specific massive failure would have completely convinced the Sixers organization to finally stop doing this, but nah, they just kept going. The very next following season, they officially signed big man Vincent Poirier. And you should honestly pat yourself on the back right now if you actually remember him playing for them, which again happened the exact year after he spent his lone professional season developing in Boston. Right in the middle of this deep dive into NBA front office history, I want to take a quick second to ask you to please subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video if you are enjoying the content, because your support helps us grow and keeps the absolute best basketball coverage coming directly to you every single day. Getting back into the history books, luckily for the sanity of Philadelphia fans, this specific trend finally stopped after the Poirier experiment, as the Sixers front office finally learned the hard way that blindly bringing in former Boston players simply has not really worked in their favor at all. The absolute hilarious irony of this entire situation is that the Boston Celtics have actually brought in multiple former Sixers alumni over the years and completely turned them into massive success stories within their system. Most notably the versatile Evan Turner, the defensive-minded Josh Richardson, and recently young Jaden Springer, who may not have completely blossomed into a superstar, but absolutely became an NBA champion wearing green. Now shifting our focus back to the modern-day Golden State Warriors, it is highly likely that they will eventually see the exact same frustrating results as the Sixers did. Maybe a few short years ago, the combination of Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis would have been exactly what the doctor ordered for the Warriors' championship aspirations, but the reality of professional sports is cruel. Al Horford is currently pushing 40 years old, and the grueling NBA schedule is incredibly demanding on a player of his advanced age, while Kristaps Porzingis is unfortunately now at a constant elevated risk for both lingering illness and devastating lower body injuries. Absolutely no one in the passionate city of Boston is actively rooting against either of these great players after absolutely everything they have sacrificially done for the Celtics franchise over the years. But it is incredibly easy for analysts to be completely realistic about exactly what they can and absolutely cannot do at this point in their respective careers, now that they are no longer operating within the incredibly protective and highly structured Boston system. And honestly, it is not really entirely on the players either. Exactly like the situation in Philadelphia years ago, the massive root problem currently facing Golden State lies significantly more with their highly flawed overall roster construction than anything else. The massive calculated risks associated with their current aging roster simply outweigh the sheer overall talent at this specific point in the season. If that were not the absolute glaring truth, the Warriors organization would absolutely not be desperately fighting for their playoff lives in a play-in tournament spot this incredibly late in the regular season calendar. From a purely strategic standpoint, it was arguably much better that the Golden State front office aggressively did something rather than passively doing absolutely nothing at the trade deadline to try and save their season. But simply taking on aging Celtics castoffs and injury-prone big men absolutely does not rectify the massive underlying truth that it is simply too little too late for their closing championship window.